Let's get more on the esports boom with Chris Vollmer. He is PricewaterhouseCoopers Strategy and Global Managing Director of Digital Services and the leader of its Global Media and Entertainment Division. Chris, thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, you guys have released a report, and according to it, global revenue of the esports business will hit $463 million this year. That's up 43% from last year. Firstly, how do you define esports for the sake of this report?
Yeah, esports is really the part of the media and entertainment business that's really around competitive video gaming.
Okay, and where is this growth coming from then?
A lot of the growth is coming from the United States. About 40% of that 500 million, according to Newzoo, is in the United States, but it's a global phenomenon. It's happening all over the world.
And we're seeing that these esports are drawing huge audiences, packing stadiums, and having people actually watch them online. I chatted with the CEO of Razer, and he said that last year there was a tournament that had more viewers than the NBA playoffs. Who are these people watching these esports? What is the demographic of the audience?
Yeah, it's one of the most exciting, dynamic parts of the media and entertainment business because it's such a young audience. Most of the participants in esports, those that are watching and those that are playing, are under the age of 35, a lot between the ages of 18 to 24. What's also really interesting about this audience is you'd be surprised, it's a pretty balanced mix between men and women. It's not just teenagers and young men.
It's not just nerdy teenage boys,
Not at
right?
all, not at all. It's very multicultural, it's very tech savvy, and it's one that is highly engaged and passionate about what they do.
Okay, these are the players. Is it typically the players that are also the audience members for when these events are
That's right.
performed? So which games tend to generate the biggest audiences?
Well, a lot of the action is no surprise. It's around first-person shooter games, which are the most popular genre. The other genre that is also quite popular that we found in our study are really the multiplayer battle games. League of Legends is probably the one you're most familiar with.
Well, I know these games generate, as you say, tremendous interest. Prize money for a tournament sponsored by Razer hit $11 million. What is the range that these gamers can expect to make?
Well, it's enough that they can actually be professionals now. So there actually are some very talented gamers around the world that are earning enough through sponsorship, through prize money, that they can actually make a living as a professional athlete in esports.
You know, so much so that the U.S. State Department is now granting visas, correct me if I'm wrong,
That's
for
correct.
esports athletes like they would for other athletes.
Yeah, and there are agencies clamoring to represent these guys.
So with this huge business booming, which companies are poised to benefit from this?
Well, you already see some of the largest companies in media and sports and digital in the esports space, companies like ESPN, or Time Warner's Turner, or Activision. They've all started esports efforts. Amazon purchased Twitch. Google is a big player with YouTube. So you have a lot of the big players already participating in esports.
And with esports starting to get more and more mainstream, for example, at what level do you think that a general audience will consider this viewership and not just very niche?
Yeah, well, I think we're really at the tipping point for it moving from something that has been a niche sport to something that's a lot more mainstream. In our study, we found that consumption is increasing. People are watching more. As I mentioned earlier, the audience is pretty gender neutral, so there's a good balance in terms of who's participating. And we just see, as you see more of these players getting involved, the storytelling is going to get better, the production value is going to get better, the coverage is just going to get more interesting. It's going to draw more viewers in.
What does the world of virtual reality mean for esports?
It's a big part of what the future of the sport is going to look like. Already you see the big players beginning to experiment with new ways of producing the sport, ways of adding more technology, more innovation. That's going to be something that we'll be watching closely over the next couple of years.
You know, Chris, we mentioned that colleges are granting scholarships for this. The State Department is granting visas for this. And now the International Olympic Committee is considering making this an Olympic sport. What's the latest with that?
Well, I think all of this just points to the appeal of esports for younger viewers. And that's a big theme in media and entertainment overall. Olympics is not immune to that either. They all want to get younger. And that's one of the most attractive things about esports, is just how appealing it is to younger audiences.
Do you see it being included by the 2020 Games? Is that a real prospect?
Well, I think that's probably just consideration by the Olympic Committee. But on the other hand, they were very quick to adopt things like snowboarding and other sports that clearly brought in more millennial audiences. And when we look at it, we see so much demand from sponsors and from advertisers and some of the other big media and entertainment companies that it may not be long before esports is there.
Right, except it's just a workout for your thumbs, right? All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Chris Vollmer, PricewaterhouseCoopers Strategy and Global Managing Director of Digital Services and the leader of its global media and entertainment